The Fanatec CSL DD came out 2 years ago, and I got it pretty much straight away. I pre-ordered this as soon as I heard about it, and so I thought I would do my long-term review. As I'm filming this, it is August 2023. This came out August 2021, and during that time I've nearly exclusively used this, except for the last few weeks. If you're a follower of this channel, you will know that I'm now doing a reasonably long-term review on a Cam C5. I've done videos on that. Feel free to go back and have a look at those. But I don't want to make this a comparison video. I've done one of those. But overall, how has my journey with the CSL DD been? Good or bad? Just easy, simple answer. I will say good. That's not to say there were a few issues, but to be honest, they weren't very big. But I'll get into that. For those that have been following this channel for a very long time, they'll know that I upgraded from the Fanatec CSL Elite. This was a reasonably good upgrade from the, because I mean, belt driven compared to direct drive. This was one of the first of the small direct drives on the market, which started a phase of small direct drives, the likes of Mozza and SimMagic and Camus and others. This small, competitive, reasonably cheap direct drive wheelbases. And that's all thanks to Fanatec with the CSL DD. This was the benchmark. This started a revolution, and I will probably never sell this. This was my first direct drive, and yeah, maybe it's a bit nostalgic. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time with this. Have I been 100% happy with it? No. Would I buy this again back in August 2021 with this kind of price point? Definitely. I mean, there wasn't the competitors that we had, well, there wasn't the competitors that we have now back then in this kind of price point. I mean, the market's changed now. It's not just the CSL DD at this price point anymore. But a comparison with all of its competitors is probably for another video. This video, however, I do just want to speak about the overall experience I've had with it for 2 years. And I guess you could say my 2-year review. Maybe that's what this is going to be titled. You already know. Now, of course, when I bought the Fanatec CSL DD, the first wheel I wanted to use it with was, of course, the McLaren GT3 wheel. A definite fan favourite and probably one of Fanatec's most sold wheels. And to be honest, for most of the time I've used the Fanatec CSL in 2 years, I've probably been using it with this wheel. I did have the F1 Esports wheel, which I had from my Elite that I used for games like F1 and just driving Formula 1 cars really. But I drive a lot of GT3s, and most of the time I've just been using this. And this is, I think for the CSL DD, just a great all-around wheel. It's reasonably light, even with the metal quick release. That's not focusing. I'm using a different camera today. I don't know, it's just a nostalgic day. I'm using one of my I guess you could say, older model Sonys today. A7 III, but anyway, I don't normally use this. I will say, while I'm on this wheel, that I did have a problem with this wheel, which is not kind of Fanatec CSL DD related, but the downshifter just started to play up, so I switched to these SimMakers magnetic shifters. These are great, and if you have this wheel, definitely look at upgrading the shifters. Other than that, I haven't really had a problem. That was one of the only problems I think I've ever had with Fanatec, actually, except for, well, you'll see in a minute. Now, I also have this wheel that I've been using with the CSL DD. This big mama is heavier, definitely heavier. This is where I start to have a few problems with the CSL DD, and this is a bit heavier, and it does dampen the force feedback a little bit because of that. And also, I mean, the rim itself is 320 compared to 300 on the McLaren GT3. It does make a little bit of a difference. Overall, you'll still get a lot of the larger forces, just dampening on the lower ones. And I mean, my CSL DD is the 8 Newton meter, and it's at max power. Obviously, in-game turned down a little bit so it doesn't clip, but you still do tend to lose a touch of the lower forces with the larger, heavier wheels like this. And that is a little bit of a problem with the CSL DD. In saying that, if you're buying a cheaper wheelbase like CSL DD, maybe you're not going to go out and spend big money on one of Fanatec's most expensive wheels. At least at the time I bought this. They are starting to come out with more expensive wheels. Now, obviously you can put a smaller wheel rim on there, and you'll get some of those lighter forces back. Now, while we're talking about wheels, I want to bring this up now. So, when I bought my CSL DD, I also bought, at the time, the Fanatec Club Sport Universal Hub V1, because when the CSL DD came out, it was just in this transition space between V1 and the later V2 wheels that came out, and I just thought, just get a V1, that's fine. I just got QR1 anyway on all my wheels. Will I upgrade? Probably not. I hadn't had a problem with QR1 at that time. Now I do, but anyway, that's for soon. I'll talk about that soon. I got the Club Sport Universal Hub with this Podium wheel with all the gold stitching and all that on there. I really like this wheel. Unfortunately, the Club Sport Universal Hub, as you can see, is not here anymore. And that is one of the problems I had with the CSL DD that I just couldn't really got over, and I ended up selling the wheel. Now, technically, all of Fanatec wheels are compatible with the CSL DD, but on launch, the Club Sport Universal Hub V1 was not. I didn't know that at the time, but I had a lot of issues. It had a compatibility issue with the CSL DD, and sometimes the shifters didn't work, the buttons didn't work, the LED display didn't work. Sometimes it did work, but then the display flickered and it wasn't constant. I just had a lot of issues with a compatibility issue with the CSL DD and that particular wheel. Well, Universal Hub, really. And I was speaking to Fanatec about this for a year. And every time I spoke to them, they're like, oh, the new New firmware, go to new firmware. I do the new firmware to the CSL DD, and then it works for a week or two, and then it didn't. And then Fanatec say, the latest firmware, go to the latest firmware, because a new firmware had come out since the last time I spoke to them, and then I put the newest firmware out, then it worked, and then it didn't. And then they said, I'll go to the newest firmware. And this happened for a year. And I just had issues after issues, and I got rid of it. So if you're looking at getting a Fanatec CSL DD, don't get the Club Sport Universal Hub V1. V2 is fine. V2 is fine, but the V1, there are issues there. It wasn't just me. I've spoken to many other people that have had the same problem as me, because apparently Fanatec fixed it, but they kind of didn't. And it kind of worked after the firmware updates, but then it didn't again. I tried a million different things, and it was just, and I did exactly what Fanatec told me to do, and it just never. So that was probably my biggest issue with the CSL DD, compatibility with the Universal Hub V1, which was sad because I actually really liked that and this wheel. It was a good little combo. And then when I sold that is actually when I got this. Is this better? Yes. Is it a lot more expensive? Yes. Is it heavier? Yes. So I mean, it's got more features and I like it, but yeah, I think for the CSL DD, it's not as good. I think if I had like a Fanatec like DD1 or DD2, I would probably have this on most of the time, but for the CSL DD, it was just, it doesn't have enough power for the weight and size of this, unfortunately. I'm happy to muck around and have fun with this wheel, but yeah, for anything properly competitive, I'd really want the McLaren GT3 wheel, just so you get all those fine details. Now, while I'm on the subject of QR1, which is still, at the time of filming, the only quick release you can get through Fanatec, and so I have QR1 on my CSL DD. I didn't have an issue with my Club Sport Universal Hub QR1. I didn't have an issue with the McLaren GT3 QR1. But this one, for the with the Podium hub, the top of the, when I first started using it, I was turning and I felt a click every time I turned, like there was a loose wire hitting something. It was click, 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 click. And then I figured out it's this QR1. So not great. It's a bit annoying that, unfortunately, and I think this is a letdown of the CSL DD at the moment, and this could fix itself in the coming months or year when Fanatec finally release the QR2. However, then I'm gonna have to fork out money for a QR2, another QR2, and then the base QR2 as well, all to fix this little clicky issue. To fix the little clicky issue though, I will say, I did put that screw in, the screw in you can put in there, and that does fix it. However, then it's not a quick release, is it? It's a slow release. And it's named a quick release. So, yeah, problems, in my opinion. And something that unfortunately lets the CSL DD down. Because all of its competitors, like Moza and Camus and Others, they use a better quick release system than this. As you can see with my CSL DD here, I actually keep that in here because when I pull that out of my Podium hub, then I just screw it in there. And when I put my McLaren wheel on, I don't worry about it. Because I don't have the issue with the McLaren wheel. So it's just an annoying other thing that I have to do. But anyway, let's get away from wheels and just talk about this without the QR1. Because when you're watching this, maybe QR1 isn't even a thing anymore. I don't know. I think one of the good things about the CSL DD is it's got good mounting options. At the bottom, you can mount it on the side. As you can see, I've got little T-slot nuts there. You can't top mount it, you can't front mount it, but you've got a table mount that you can use, obviously. I personally side mount with just the rig that I designed, because I designed and made my own rig, which I have a video on. Well, I have 2 videos on actually. Feel free to see that later. If you're wondering what this is just a phone mount that I put my phone on for extra data. Another good thing about the CSL DD that I've really liked is no fan at all, which I am a fan of. I am the fan of this Fanatec CSL DD. So yeah, it's quiet in its operation. Power button on the front, which I really like. One thing that kind of stopped me from going to a DD1 or DD2 is the power button's on the back, and it's just, yeah. It's a small thing. I like power button on the front. I really do. I mean, every power button should be on the front of all direct drives. I don't care what they say. Easily in reach. And obviously if there's a light there, it's good to just see whether it's on and off, or turn the computer off, but there's still something flashing there. There's still something, lights on. Oh yeah, forgot to turn that off. Now I haven't used the Mozza R9 or the Simagic Alpha Mini or a lot of its competitors, so I can't really compare it to that. But the force feedback I found has been quite detailed in this. The software is good enough that I can get the feedback out of it that I want and need. The utmost max forces are not quite there for me, but I mean, that's a personal preference. I mean, some people are happy with the 5 Newton meter version of this. For me personally, I feel 8 is probably the minimum I would go for if you're doing like GT3 racing and stuff like that. Maybe 5 Newton meters might be okay if you're drifting and stuff like that. I'm not really a drifter, so I can't comment on that too much. But as a bit of a GT3 racer and like an actual road car racer and F1 racer, the forces have been 80% there for me. And I think for this kind of price point, that's fine. As for the software, I haven't had a problem with it. I mean, I'm part of like the Fanatec owners groups and all that on Facebook, and I definitely have heard of people bricking their units, and I think that's getting better now. Fanatec software has always been a bit... A lot of people were scared to upgrade their firmware. I haven't been one of them. In fact, Fanatec have told me to, with what I was saying before with the Universal Hub, I had to upgrade the firmware, pretty much every single firmware release, and I didn't have a problem with it. The one thing I will say with the Fanatec software is I don't understand why there's 2 different programs. There's Fanalab and then there's the normal. I mean, just make it 1. I don't understand why it has to be 2. Just make it 1. ease of use. Because you update the new firmware, you have to update to a new Fanatec. Update to a new Fanatec, you have to update. I mean, from a reliability point of view, I haven't had an actual problem with the actual base. I've obviously had the compatibility issues with the universal hub, but in terms of the base itself, for 2 years, I haven't really had an issue. And I was a little cautious when I bought this. Should I take out the extra warranty? Because I wasn't, I mean, Fanatec's not, I would say, known for their reliability, but really, I haven't had a problem with this. Now, I have seen other people on Reddit and Facebook Marketplace with, this is a carbon composite kind of plastic shaft that goes in here to this QR1 that sits inside it. And if you put too much forces in that, that actually snaps the carbon composite shaft. So that's happened, but it hasn't happened to me. I drive pretty normally. If I'm in an accident normally, I actually let go of the wheel, so there's not a lot of forces going the opposite way. So it's been okay with me. But just be known, there has people that have snapped their shaft. That sends my mind in weird locations. Don't type that into Google. People who have snapped their shaft. Of course, I will mention that another little thing that I like about the CSL DD is it does have these holes here to put other accessories, like my phone mount, on the front of it if you wanted to. There's people that 3D print other things that have stream decks and all that coming off the side, and other stuff. So I think that's a really cool little addition that they've added that not all have. A really small, really light form factor, which is another plus to this if you're using it on a table mount or Next Level Racing FGT Lite or something. Good small light form factor is good for those particular scenarios. If you're on a big rig like me, doesn't matter so much. I mean, my rig weighs 100 and something kilos on its own, so a little bit more doesn't matter. So my conclusion in all of this, the Fanatec CSL DD, how did it hold up over 2 years, and would I buy again? Should you buy now? I can answer some of those. How has my Fanatec held up over 2 years? I would say really good. I haven't had a problem with my base. Yes, I have had a problem with my wheels. Yes, I have had a problem with the compatibility with the base. But the base itself, I haven't had an issue with in 2 years. And I can only speak for me. I don't know how some of those other bases are being used out there, how they got snapped shafts and things like that. But for me, it's held up well. I think at the time that I bought it, with the lack of competitors at that particular time, I would definitely buy the Fanatec CSL DD again. But in terms of should you buy now? I think it's a really difficult question, obviously depending on your price point. As you may have seen in some of my previous videos with the Camus C5 coming in at like 250 USD, I mean that's a bit of a price cut on a CSL DD. I mean, things are getting tighter, and there's a reason right now, at least at the time of filming, Fanatec have had a bit of a price cut on the CSL DD, whether that's for a temporary time or whether that's permanently, I don't know. But right now it's on sale for a really good price. I mean, I think you can get it for like $3.99 in a bundle or something. And if you bundle like pedals and wheel, I think right now you can actually get the base on its own, plus all the other stuff, for $199, plus whatever wheels you choose, plus whatever pedals you choose, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, good price. I don't think that's sticking around though. And I think if you get it at that discounted price, then yeah, it's a good buy right now. If the price goes up to where it was again, and you're spending a lot more, maybe not. But I don't know, let's see how the price settles. I've only recently changed to the Camera C5, and that's just because, you know, it was given to me for free by Cameras, and I want to test it out. For such a cheap little direct drive, I want to do a bit more of a long-term review. I don't just want to use it for a week or two and then get rid of it. I actually want to see how it goes. So I'm using that full time at the moment. There's been entire days that I've been on that, and it's still held up pretty well so far. And that's the only reason I've switched from the Fanatec CSL DD. Otherwise, I would probably keep with the Fanatec CSL DD. It's been a pretty good wheel for the price point, with no real issues and reasonably good feedback. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, everybody. Hit that like button if you liked it, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next video.